Hello, I'm Karen Tracy. I'm head of industry at Meta. I am thrilled to be here today. Thanks for spending time here. You know, there's been a lot of talk for the past year, and probably during every session that you've sat in so far here at Adweek, about the impact that machine learning and AI will have on marketing. What that sparks for me, though, is a different discussion that we've been having for a while about this intersection between art and science. Now, art, as we all know, is the creative, right? The imaginative and human side of advertising, where science is all about the data and optimizations that go into some of our most sophisticated performance marketing campaigns. So now, while science is all about being truth-based and data-backed, art is all about instinct, right? That hunch that you have when a piece of creative is so good. And when it's great, that emotional connection that you make with your customers as a result, that then turns into iconic advertising. Now, we all know that it's the stuff of marketers' dreams to have this much talked about advertising. But what if I were to venture to say that the days of producing that one perfect ad are essentially over, especially as it relates to performance marketing? Now, hear me out for a minute, because I'm not saying that science is the buzz of creativity. What I am saying is actually the opposite, is that creative has actually never been more critical. And why is that, you may ask? Well, first of all, the amount of content in the world is overwhelming, and it's really hard to absorb. The pace at which people are consuming and creating content is at an all-time high. So that one perfect ad that you created could very easily be overlooked. Second is that we're getting better and better at optimizing. We are getting better and better at measuring every single component that plays into why that hunch you had about that perfect creative is actually working and resonating, and most importantly, driving the conversions that you need. You see, today's CMOs are having to blend art and science together in a way that, when done well, actually has profound impact on measurable business results. In fact, 56% of all outcomes in Meta's ad delivery auction are based on creative. So creative has become the #1 lever for performance in terms of delivery optimization, in terms of reaching audiences, and actually how much you'll pay for them. And we've opened this opportunity to all marketers to help figure out with us, as we have launched diagnostic tools to dive deep into what part of your creative is resonating and why. Do you have an issue with fatigue? Are your ads wearing out? Is it about resonance? Is it about being relevant? And most importantly, are you using your creative as your targeting? The most savvy marketers are realizing that you can get additional reach by building messaging that resonates with audiences outside your core. That's what SoundCloud has done so incredibly well here, and moving away from who they thought was their only audience, which is single women, to opening up and creating content for families. What happened as a result is net new incremental reach and lower costs. So tapping into these tools is the way that you can do this, where we can look at fatigue. Are your ads fresh and exciting and compelling? Differentiation, meaning making sure it's non-repetitive and that you're reaching multiple audiences, even ones that you didn't think you had. And is it meaningful and memorable? Is it resonating? Well, we had the opportunity to put all of this to the test with our incredible and willing partners from Anthropologie. In case you didn't know, Anthropologie is a 30-year-old brand that I've been a fan of since day one, that pretty much started the whole fashion luxury lifestyle for young affluent women. And today is pushing the boundaries of creativity and has been on this journey with us and is seeing incredible results. So joining me here today is their Global Chief Marketing Officer, Elizabeth Price, who I'd love to invite up to the stage to have this conversation about creativity and performance. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. How are you?
It is so great to have you here today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be invited. Thank you.
So we had the opportunity to meet literally like a month before the global pandemic raged on and talk about trial by fire. You had just started as the CMO of Anthropologie. I'd love to talk about how you quickly pivoted the business at that moment and what from that time has become the new way in terms of being able to meet customer expectations.
Sure. So you're right. I mean, I joined in December 19, right before COVID hit. And I think let me sort of step back. The reason that Anthropologie was such an exciting brand for me to join is because there is so much inherent love for this brand. I tell this story often, but when I first joined the company and I finally got around to updating my LinkedIn, I was floored, like literally floored by the thousands of people who reached out, people I knew, but more importantly, people I had no idea who they were, telling me that this was their favorite brand of all time. So as a marketer, there's probably nothing more exciting than getting that information and that affirmation that you are working for a brand that already has that inherent emotion and that love.
Yeah.
So that we had going for it. There was no question. But interestingly, most people knew about the brand oftentimes through their IRL experience, their physical experience.
Right.
It was the stores, it was the candle, it was the cashmere, it was the touch and the feel of the physical environment. The windows, we hear that all the time.
You're incredible stylist.
We even wrote a book about the windows, to be honest. So that was what people knew about us.
Yeah.
So in literally the moment of days, we had a shift very quickly. And we not only had to prioritize digital, but we had to maximize digital because that was our one and only source of traffic and source of business for a period of time. So I think what that required is really sort of stepping back and saying, where do we have the skills? Where do we have the knowledge set? And do we have all of the right tools for us to actually move forward in this business? And what we realized is that digital is not a channel. It's not a platform. It's not a technology. It's not a marketing lever. It's a business driver, full stop. And I think the moment we realized that digital was not only sitting in the marketing team or only sitting on the technology side, it actually opened all of us up to realize that it was our responsibility to make sure we were digitally proficient. Certain people had to be digitally fluent, digitally expert, but every single person in the organization had to be digitally proficient. And that actually was a really big opened our eyes. And as a result, as a company, what we have carried with us is the priority that we will think and act digital first. Everyone in the organization, even those who run stores, think and act digitally first because that is how customers actually first oftentimes respond to your brand.
Love it. And I love how you leaned in immediately and took advantage of that shift in consumer behavior and now doing best-in-class work there.
But we were lucky. We were very lucky because we had many years of a direct-to-consumer business.
Right.
So we had a whole database of customers.
Yes.
We had a huge working platform, a working e-commerce platform that many other companies did not have the same capabilities. Yeah. So we actually had a lot of the foundation to work with. We just had to basically make that not just, again, our priority, but our full source of effort.
So 30-year-old brand, favorite to many.
Yeah.
But we all know reaching younger audiences is critical. We've all heard the stats about Gen Z and young millennials. They will make up 50% of the luxury spending power in the next couple of years, right? This is business imperative. How do you strategically think about going after that younger customer, but at the same time, not alienating your core, who has been loyal to you for potentially 30 years?
Yeah. Well, I think you hit on it perfectly. You can't think of it as an or, it has to be an and.
Yeah.
You have to think about your existing customer and how do you keep staying relevant and staying interesting to them. And what makes them still live and love your brand might be different ways than what a new customer may live and love and discover your brand with. So in our case, it actually was we thought about it very thoughtfully. We said we have a catalog, and that's really going to our core customer. The product we put in there, who we send it to, those things, that's one channel. Then we thought about all of our digital and all of our digital activation, all of our digital outreach we knew that that was going to reach a customer who should be and could be accretive to our base. And so our strategies for the digital side, the products we featured, the creative content we created, where we placed that content, how often we placed that content, that was all geared toward reaching a new customer and reaching a customer who wasn't swinging the pendulum to the 18-year-old, certainly not, but it was definitely swinging the pendulum a little bit younger from our core customer that had actually literally grown up with us over 30 years. So that was what it was, like a bolt on. We wanted to keep our core, keep them coming back, but then bolt on a whole bunch of new customers who could experience and love the brand for new ways.
Yeah, so we had a real turning point in the partnership when Elizabeth put the challenge out to my team around helping on this creative journey of reaching this younger customer. So we embarked on their headquarters, and if you haven't been, it is the most incredible experience in Philadelphia in the old Navy Yard, and it's an embodiment of the brand. You're inspired the minute you get there. But what I was most inspired about is we walked into the conference room, and in the room were 30 to 40 people at the table that Elizabeth had brought together in alignment on what we were about to do. From the president of the brand, to the merchants, to the creative team, to the copywriter. Of course, your whole team. How did you get all those stakeholders together? Because, by the way, I do think this is a massive takeaway for anyone who wants to embark on this sort of like creative as targeting and creative to be used to reach different audiences, right? We had to really shift mindset in that moment. How did you get all those people aligned and in the room and ready to go?
Well, it wasn't as hard as I thought, to be perfectly frank. And I think part of that is because when you have when you're all completely aligned with think and act digital first, from everyone in the organization, and we talk about this every day, that was already a premise that we were all shared. We were sharing that same value. So that was first, number one. The other thing I would say, which is not as easy to sort of state, but is something that is really, really important, is that I think as leaders, I have an old boss who used to say, everyone can lead from every chair. As leaders, you need to make sure that you maintain a sense of humility. And humility means not just, not bragging or something. It also means being curious and being strong enough to say you don't know. And when you're strong enough to say that you don't know something, it opens your eyes to wanting to learn and allowing those on your team to also do the same thing and wanting to learn. So for us, having that combination between humility coupled with an insatiable amount of curiosity that our company has, each individually as well as collectively, we are an organization fueled by curiosity. So that combination of humility plus curiosity comes together and brought all those people together to both recognize they know some things very, very well, and that's why they're experts in their respective fields, but they also know, and we all know, that there's some things that we don't know very well, and we need to get better in. And that's when we brought you in as partners and as experts in the things that you know well. And the other thing that's very important, as we all understand, is that this is not a static industry. I mean, this is changing by the minute. So what you might have thought was the way in the approach from 2 years ago is no longer the approach going forward. So I think that was also an eye-opening moment. And in that session, because we did have the creative teams, we did have the entire merchant teams, we did have all the marketing teams, we had that trifecta. We had the product, we had the content, and we had the customer, effectively. Thinking the same way, how we're going to reach that customer, with what content, and showing what product. And that was what sort of opened our eyes to say, we have all the tools we need to actually blow this up.
Yeah, and it's a real shift, right? I talked about it in my opener, this idea, like we grew up in an age where it was all about the one ad. Perfect ad, right?
The ad. Focus groups, and oh my God, you like that font
right.
size, and how much, oh my God, one ad.
Right, and we used our diagnostic tools, and the big insight that came out in looking at all of your creative was this idea of differentiation was lacking, because you were talking a lot to your current customer, but weren't doing as much as you could potentially in differentiating your creative enough to reach this younger customer. Now, that comes with resistance, of course, like you said, but what got us there won't get us to the next. I want to talk about what business impact you're seeing as a result of that shift and everyone moving together to lean into this idea around really putting different kinds of content and storytelling out there.
Yeah, totally. Well, it sort of goes back to the humility and curiosity combination. Part of humility is also knowing that you're not going to hit it right all the time. I mean, you have to try things.
Yeah.
And that's the value. I mean, unlike a ad that you put in across all media and everything else back in the day, we can change things. Like, we can try something, it doesn't work, we take it down, we try something else. So rather than resisting that model, we decided to lean into that model.
Yeah.
And you're right. In the old days, it was one ad for many, and now it's many ads for, hopefully, resonating as well as it can with each individual, as much as possible. So, we thought about, again, the creative consumer we're going after is the one who's not 18, but certainly slightly younger than the customer we had. What were the products? How did they want to see that product? Who was the talent they wanted to have show them product? It's not always the celebrity. It can sometimes be, the gal next door. So how do we think about all those pieces of the puzzle to create a suite of content, a suite of assets that we can then push up, see how they respond against the audiences we want? And the results were really pretty astounding. And it doesn't happen in 1 minute, but it certainly happens over time, and you have to stick with it. But in a matter of months, we started seeing about 2.5 times more exposure for that target audience that we were going after, which was great. And in addition, we were able to reach more customers as well as bring them in more efficiently by about 40% less than what we had been seeing beforehand. So the combination was great. I think oftentimes, from a finance perspective, they'll say, okay, more ads are going to cost more money to create. Is this exactly what we want to be doing? Is this, gosh, your creative costs are going up, Elizabeth. I understand that. Yeah. But the opportunity cost of actually serving up ads that don't resonate is also compelling. Like, that is a compelling argument against making sure that you have enough assets out there and enough creative diversification out there.
I love that you brought that up. We were in a follow-up meeting and had all these great results, and the COO, it's usually a COO or CFO that asked this question, said to Elizabeth, "That's great, but more costs more. And how do you think about the financials of this, and are the results enough to substantiate this new way we have to be thinking about creative, that you need more of it?" And I thought how you answered it was so brilliant.
I think that, yes, it does cost more to create more ads. There's no question about it. 5 ads are going to cost more than 1 ad. Yeah. However, spending media dollars on things that don't work is a waste of money. And we think about our business as investing in the right places. And investing in the right places might mean, in some cases, investing in enough content to actually then reach those right customers that we're trying to attract as a creative. And that was exactly what our response was, and that's how we're running our business. And if all of that incremental content can actually reach more audiences that then become more engaged because the content that they're seeing is more relevant to them and not to the mass, then you actually end up getting efficiency on your creative over time.
Yeah. And you had a force multiplier at work here too, because you really leaned into AI. And Meta has launched a whole suite of solutions around automation that you embraced. And this is this idea, again, of creative as the new targeting, which again, for some is hard to grasp because we came from a world where it was granular audience segments and cohorts. We all thought we knew what the mindset was of every group of consumers we had. And we're saying to you now as marketers, trust that the creative will lead through the AI to the right audience groups. Is everyone fully aligned on this?
I mean, look, I'll be honest. I mean, I wasn't even really aligned on it at the beginning. I mean, I'll be honest. And I would say to my team, Barbara, don't you think we could do this? She's like, Elizabeth, Meta does it better. Meta does it better. So just let them let their algorithm do what they do better. And she was right. You're right. I mean, it's better that we do what we can do really well, which is I want to build brand love. That's all I want to do. I want to build that brand love with amazing, compelling, emotional, creative that just says wow, that just makes you literally gasp and say wow. That's what we want to do. So let's us do what we can do really well, partnering with our merchants to make sure we're serving up the right product and we're evolving the product that's going to also resonate with the younger customer. That's what we can do really well. If we have enough of those things out there, they will just like water finds a hole, they will find the customer where those are the right customers for that content.
Yeah, and I think the piece that we can't deny that is a really big part of this and becomes the engine behind this content machine now that you need to be setting up as a CMO is you can't really talk about creative without talking about creators.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and the role they play, and we think about these younger audiences and the trust they have in creators, even more so sometimes than the brand themselves.
Absolutely.
I want to hear where they strategically fit in for you in this strategy of content creation and finding the right customers.
Sure. I mean, I think in general, people believe people before they believe brands. And I think that's something, I mean, I say that about also people work for people before they work for brands. So I think, people is really, it's the connector of all. So with that said, in the case of thinking about our content and the creators of our content, I think a great example of that is the campaign we just launched called Falling for Anthro. And that Falling for Anthro campaign was all focused on getting people to fall in love with Anthro, truly. People who already knew Anthro, knew Anthropologie, already loved Anthropologie, wanted to come back and shop more Anthropologie, as well as for people who may not know us or may know us as not exactly the brand we are today. Maybe they knew us as the brand we were 3, 4, 5 years ago plus. So that campaign, yes, we had one content creator, a celebrity. She had 8 million followers on Instagram. We also had a whole slew of mega, micro, and nano influencers support that. So we had an entire suite of content creators, both those that we commissioned, those that we curated, and actual some content that we created ourselves to support the Falling for Anthro campaign. And that allowed us tremendous reach across multiple platforms. And like a real burst. It was like a complete burst of activity. And that helped drive not just excitement about the brand, but also truly drive massive traffic.
That campaign was amazing.
I'm still falling for Anthro.
Me too, as you can tell. So if you can rewind the last 3 years and all the lessons learned, if you knew then what you know now, would you have changed anything?
That's such a good question. And there's a part of me that says, oh my gosh, we should have run faster. We could have done more quicker. And then I asked myself, you can only go as fast as what the organization and what the pacing of that knowledge can take you. And I think if we had ran faster without the right product evolution in place, we would have actually shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Because we would have actually gotten more visibility on a product strategy that had not yet evolved. And that would have just further amplified not where we wanted to be, but where we still were. So I would say that, back to the trifecta between product, content, and customer, or connecting with those customers through marketing, we really needed, the first 2 years of my being there really was focused on getting the product right. Because, ultimately, you can have the best creative in the world, but if your product is not compelling or desirable, that's not going to help you. So the teams, and I give a huge, celebration for my champions, the president of the women's division as well as the president of the home division, and having the product evolve in a way that actually made it be emotionally desirable was a huge help. Yeah. For that younger customer.
Yep.
It was definitely still desirable for our older customer, but for that younger customer. We brought in new brands. We brought in brands like, Frame and Mother, and like brands that younger customers we knew were going to be attracted to. So that was a big starting point, and we needed to do that first. And then we needed to say, once we had the brands, then do we have the content, and is our content evolving in a way that's going to be compelling for that younger customer? And then once we did that, and if you look about what our content used to look like 3 years ago versus what our content looks like now, it's dramatically different. Yeah. Definitely more edgy, definitely more youthful, definitely more, sheer shine. It's a lot, not, big chunky sweaters everywhere. So it's a very different look. And then finally, you have the assets and you have the product, and then you can really amplify that story on a much bigger, broader scale through marketing. And that's what we did. So I don't know if there could have been a faster path.
And this
I think if it was faster, it wouldn't have been as sustainable. And
Sure.
if we had run faster, we would have probably tripped, and that would not have been good. So I'm actually glad that we're pacing this. I mean, it's a marathon, and I'm very, very, very proud to say that even with all this change, our customer retention rates have actually improved, not gone down. So our active customer continues to be as engaged, if not more, with our brand. And in addition, we see outsized growth of our new customer.
Congrats.
Which is great.
All about your leadership there. We've talked a lot about how marketing has drastically changed, but retail really has too. And if we think about this journey we've been on, right, of stores, full shift to all digital, back luckily to in real life and people shopping again, and this whole idea of your most valuable customer being this hybrid customer, I think you do this so well. It's something we are very focused on as a company in terms of driving, making sure our digital presence is driving not only e-commerce outcomes, but in-store outcomes. What is your vision here of where this continues to go and the role that companies like Meta can play in helping you and cultivating this really valuable hybrid shopper?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, look, people want different things at different times of their shopping journey. Sometimes they want efficiency. They want to get that commodity delivered in their door in a matter of hours. Other times they want to spend the day and truly have an experience out with friends or family, or even by themselves, and experience a shopping trip in the physical space and a sense of discovery. So I think that being true to knowing what your customer is, A, not all your customers are the same, and B, all of your customers don't want the same thing at the same time.
Right.
And that's also very important because a customer who is a efficient commodity, they just want efficiency. They don't want efficiency maybe all the days of their life. Maybe they just want some things efficient on certain times and not all the time. I think that it goes back to the premise, and not to sound like a broken record, but if you're an organization that thinks and acts digital first, you realize that even in the store environment, digital is critically important because digital is still a place that people are discovering brands and engaging with brands and getting more emotionally attached to brands. And that digital environment is actually what is helping and propelling them to come into the store environment. And we hear that more and more and more, and I'm sure you've had similar experiences of customers coming into the store with their Instagram feed saying, this is what I'm looking for, can you please find it for me? And if they can't find it in their store, because not everything is in every single store, we certainly have the capabilities to get it for them very quickly. So I think recognizing that it's not a one or the other, it's an and everyone, again, if every single person in the organization feels not just allowed, but actually responsible for living and breathing a digital first mindset, that actually enables everyone to service the customer in a more realistic and a more helpful way.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much. We are absolutely honored, my team and I, to be on this journey with you and to see all the success. And we're about to have our most important season of the year with holiday. Any outlook?
Oh gosh, I mean, we all know what this is like. You close your eyes and it's January 1.
Yeah.
So outlook, you know what? It's day by day. We will go day by day. If we just stay consistent, build brand love, make every single experience be above and beyond what they were expecting, we will be just fine.
Love it. Agility.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Elizabeth,
you for you and your
the great
team.
conversation. Feedback is a gift, we like to say. So we have a lovely QR code here. Please take a minute to do that. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.